My point is this. Multiple people have said to me that she is obviously in the decline. We got a Joe Biden situation, and she needs to step down. I'm not going to ask you to make that judgment unless you want to. But what I do want to ask you is, in your interactions with her, is there a significant slowdown and decline? And are people protecting her a la Joe Biden?
I would say this, and I have no hesitation answering the question. In my meetings with her, she's, in all seriousness, Dale, she is sharp. She knows what you're talking about. She knows where she is. I have not seen any mental decline whatsoever. She pretty much knows where she is. And that being said, now physically, maybe she slowed down a little bit, but, as far as her gait or something like that. But as far as her cerebral capacity to handle, if you ask her a question, she'll give you an answer. And, pretty much the governor that I've known now for goodness, going back to the state treasurer days, when she was state treasurer.
And yes, I'm the guy that originally asked the question of State Senator Arthur Orr about Governor Kay Ivey's health. Now, Senator Orr answered that question by saying that he has not seen anything that leads him to believe that Governor Kay Ivey is in ill health or in any position where she is considering resigning or anything along those lines. Let me tell you the reason for the question. Okay? It's quite simple. I was at an event in Montgomery on last Thursday. At that event, person after person came up to me and talked about various issues. Some people talked to me about the lottery. Some people talked to me about the stupid train that goes from Mobile to New Orleans for drunk wine moms. I had people talking to me about gambling, about my pro wrestling career. But I had more people talking to me about Governor Kay Ivey than anyone else. What is there? Is stuff like this getting discussed?
I have not heard a lot of whisperings at all. Now, when there was a known health incident 2 years ago, cancer or something, I forget, so don't take that to the bank.
Sure.
There was some health issue that was in the media. There were whispers then, but those have since abated, and you don't hear them like you did back when there was something, like I said, out in the media, getting tests or something like that.
It is my assertion that Governor Kay Ivey was at this event before it started because they did not want the big to-do that would happen if she walked in the room in front of everybody. Why? No, because people will analyze every single step or misstep, every statement or misstatement, everything that appears to be something showing age, they will analyze. And I think that's completely fair. I've been to this event and numerous events where the governor has been involved in the last, 10 years. And I'll be completely honest with you, she's slowing down. I don't think there's any question about that. Everyone does as they get older. My mother is elderly and she is slowing down as well. And plus, we can look at the Joe Biden situation and talk about that if you want to. But over the course of the last couple of years, Governor Kay Ivey has gone from making a pretty grand entrance to most events and giving a nice little speech to being led in and standing at a table, to being led in and sitting at a table and saying nothing, to being at the table before anyone gets there and saying nothing. Now, you can say this has absolutely nothing to do with anything, and that's completely fair. But I think it's rather hypocritical for me to point out that Joe Biden mentally and physically is gone, and the American media protected him. So, given the opportunity, I'm going to ask that question, especially given that I was told by numerous individuals at this event that they've never seen Kay Ivey looking and behaving this way. Now, a lot of that is what? A political scuttlebutt. There's always been this assertion that Governor Kay Ivey was going to step down and Will Ainsworth would become governor. I've never really believed that. I just don't believe these deals ever happen. Everyone thinks it's House of Cards. It's not. It's Veep. Okay? Everyone thinks they have the next scheme ready to go, but they never really are able to pull it off because that's not how the real world works. What's the penalty if Kay Ivey doesn't go along with that deal? If she did make such a deal, which I don't think she did, but if she did, what's the penalty? Yeah, I just don't see it. So again, maybe there is some backroom wrangling or something like that, but sorry, I just don't think that works. But there is a reason to question whether or not the governor is 100% with it. Maybe she is. Senator Orr seems to think she is. And that's why I ask State Senator Arthur Orr these questions. And I think it's a completely fair question to ask. So I've gotten some people who are upset with me over this, and that's fine. But let me just explain this. If you think how the media covered for Joe Biden is wrong, then it would be wrong for me not to ask these questions when they are raised to me. It's as simple as that. Question asked, question answered. That's how it works. But it wasn't just out of the blue or meanness or anything like that. I have a great relationship with the governor. At least I used to. I don't think I do anymore. Not that I've done anything wrong, but I'm a critical person. People don't like that. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I can't think of anything the governor's done that has upset me greatly. I'm not angry with her in any way, shape, or form. The reality is, being governor in the state of Alabama, it's not necessarily a ceremonial role. There are appointments that she gets to make and things like that. But it's not the same as being president of the United States. But it's still a mistake not to ask these questions when they are raised. And I didn't start a whisper campaign or anything like that. I asked one of the most powerful people in the state, State Senator Arthur Orr, the question, and he answered it. So, well, a lot of you are mad at me. That's fine. Understand this. I don't care. I'm going to ask the questions and talk about the things that are brought to me if I have a question about them. I'll get the answer and I'll relay it. That's the beauty of having all the platforms I have. I can then say anything I need to say and give any explanation necessary. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Again, let me summarize this one more time. The governor, Kay Ivey, was at an event that I was at last week. She didn't look great. A lot of people came up to me and talked to me about how she didn't look great. So I asked a very powerful state senator, what's up? You hearing anything? And he said no. That's the extent of it. There's nothing more than that. But that question being asked is the absolute minimum you should expect.